Hi, everybody. Well, another Thursday night. Looks like we have a seminar on the first weekend of November and December. That'll be on Saturday. And it'll that'll be in North America. We have one this Saturday for the UK. So it will be hopefully an answer to some questions that we receive in the next short period of time. Questions are a little bit lean, and I realize that people are probably busy, and um, this isn't always on their mind. But I would appreciate as many as I can get, and we'll cover as much as we can. This question is from Marie Jose Perrier here in Ottawa. What is the relationship between higher mind, the crown, and I'm not sure what she's focusing on here, the wiring of the brain? Well, I can only talk about this in relationship to energy, Marie. Um, Higher mind is a complicated thing. There are so many levels of what one could call this. I'm more interested in, I think the only person that I've been able to read that is talking about higher mind the way it seems to me to be reasonable is a guy named Sri Aurobindo in India, no longer alive, of course. But many books, very difficult to read because they come out of the uh, late, let's say, 1900s and very, very early 2000s. And I'll try and talk about this. I mean, some of his works will give you an idea. And there's another chap who wrote some books related to that. And that was I think his name was Saprin, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm just trying to steer you if you want to look at some of these ideas in a direction. But he wrote about Sri Aurobindo's ideas. When you're dealing with this idea of the crown center, just so to get a kind of a view on how this might, what it might look like, you can have energy moving all the way up your spine or up the front or up the sides and opening aspects of the crown center. And you can get to the point where you can actually sense that. You can feel it very physically. Or you can engage with it, let's say, on an astral level or emotional level. I don't want to mix the two, but nonetheless, they are often mixed up in some people's view. But you can have a higher level of mind in the imagination as well. There are various levels of links with other states within the capacity of a human being on, let's say, in many different ways of venturing. In other words, if you you can link into states of mind that relate to ideas. You can relate to all kinds of, let's say, astral or mental frequencies that relate to your ideas. This is a dilemma. And And then you can feel very comforted in the fact that ideas are coming to you relative to how you think. That is really not what I call higher mind. So, a kind of bottom line, and this is a terrible thing to say out loud without any background in that area, if your personality intellectual mind is quiet, meaning energy has come into you, the personality has learned, and it's moved right to the top of your head, one could say. But your personality has learned not to consider itself and what it's thinking as a final answer. This is very difficult. You see how already we're in trouble. As a final so called answer, everything, often almost everything, doesn't equate to a final answer. How do you tell the difference between a personality's very strong cleverness and capability, brilliance, and a higher state? Remember, even a higher state has various states within it. This sounds really weird, I know. But let's say energy is moved to the top of your head. Your throat center has started to function. Your heart center has started to function. I've got to talk that way. Otherwise, if anyone hears this, they will say, yeah, but what about this center? And the brows started to function. And energy coming from those three lower centers has stimulated those areas more than what would be called normal on our planet. Sticky wicket here. You can have ideas come into your mind to fulfill internal requests in almost every avenue of life. I would say probably in every avenue of life. This makes it very difficult for us to really allow ourselves to understand that each and every individual who comes up with a general way of perceiving things can be stimulated or can stimulate unknowingly or knowingly a response within that aligns with whatever you believe things should be like. At a higher level, or let's say a spiritual level, call it that, there is a kind of focus that relates to engaging with spiritual states. At a personality level, you can have interests in certain spiritual states that align with what you believe as a personality, and you can even defend that only those are available. No others are worthwhile, just yours, because you believe that you have the right idea. It's a dilemma. Shows up in our religious and philosophical, even scientific areas, where you can sell an idea, even though you wouldn't call it that, and then you're engaging with an idea, and you are valued because of the idea. at a higher state. You can come at that higher state from all kinds of different areas and link in with that higher state. And then when you meet people who believe slightly differently than you, that higher state links up with them as well as with you. In other words, they're in alignment with the higher state, not in alignment with the personality state or personality belief even. It makes it very hard for us human beings to make some sense of things. So we often don't allow that to happen. What we do is we make, let's say, decisions about what must be true because. The difference between that and a higher state is when you're in a higher state, you're not looking to be more right than somebody else. You're linking with that state and attempting to calm the personality down enough so that you can begin to allow yourself to open enough to consider that higher state of value, even if it doesn't agree with you. Wow, just a minute now. Wouldn't your personality protect against having that happen? And that happens to be true. Your personality reflex is a natural aligner with belief versus a kind of knowing. For example, you can believe there is such a thing as energy flowing in you, and even perhaps ascertain where it might be and be conclusive about it. But when you're not trying to figure it out and that flow is there, don't have to ascertain anything. You don't have to try and figure anything out. The difficulty is when you perceive something, then you have to fit it somewhere as part of how we have allowed ourselves or constructed within ourselves the need for meaning, the need for some kind of stabilization, some kind of definition. We can fit that here and we can fit that there. But what if it doesn't fit into any category that you've already constructed? In that case, then it's bothersome to us because it bothers the personality at the stage that it's in. This makes things a little bit difficult because I know that people talk about obliteration of the personality. And that is not, an aspect of engagement with higher state. Personality is meant to learn from an engagement with higher states. But at the same time, it makes the lower states more vulnerable because it causes some aspects of that personality not to necessarily agree with what it agreed with before. So there's a vulnerability there. So learning how to make friends with that vulnerability. And a simple way would be, if it were perfect, easy does it. It's okay. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. There's just something there that is a little bit different than what you already know. Well, it's easy to say. But when you're having that experience, it's not that easy to do because your relationship with yourself is ongoing and it's there to make sense of the world so that you can be okay in it, have a sense of value, and allow yourself to make movements forward or to the side or none at all. But this concept of higher mind is different in that the cultivation of the personality within itself to make room for not necessarily agreeing with itself, but not necessarily judging and negating itself all the time. That means making sense of things as opposed to obliterating things. This is very easy to speak, not so simple to engage with for a purpose that relates to making a place for natural, normal engagements with life to occur, and also an element of a space within for you to wonder about your mind quietening down. Some people would have a difficult time with that because they would believe that there was something wrong with them if their mind quieted down and there was nothing in it, until they talked to a friend of theirs, and then they would be able to converse without any hassle. But then, what if ideas came into your mind that you hadn't thought of before? Well, we're trained to think that whatever comes into this business up here is ours. And that can be reassuring, and also at the same time, it can be disturbing. With a quiet mind, you have a lot of stuff that comes into your mind that may not be yours. Yeah, I said it out loud. It may be that of another on a level related to an emotional, mental structure. Yes, like a telepathic thing. Everybody be walking around now and saying, oh my gosh, I'm very telepathic. I know what someone's going to say before they say it. It's not really telepathic. It's most of the times anticipation. And since we're very, very similar in so many different ways, we can anticipate what a person might say very easily. And we like to see ourselves as being able to do that. It makes us feel kind of good. That is not a level of mind in a higher state. That's a level of mental engagement at these states. Almost everyone you ever meet will have this kind of thing go on because we're trained to compete often with each other. And in fact, that level of mind allows you to understand that competition is an aspect of the personality's version of protection of self and value. And that is an aspect of living here because we're trained immediately. That's kind of an endorsement of being really, really able on these planes. Many have played sports and various games, and we feel better. All we have to do is do a single tiny little thing, and it makes us feel better. That's because the personality is so vulnerable. 2, unconsciously knowing that it's always in a state of vulnerability, at least to some degree, unless you hammer hard at the way you speak and engage, as if everything, that you do is always really good. So you become the best lawyer in the whole world. Well, you will think you would know something about medicine or this or that or another thing. It's what we all are a part of. And it's hard to listen to this and see it there in you daily. You don't want to go off talking to people about this one, because somehow that makes you lesser, because they're not talking about it. I can assure you they're living it, whether they know it or not. That higher state, though, needs a form, a personality structure that can be okay with engaging at the same time, recognizing the difference between it, this is early going, and the natural inclination to be a personality, no matter what it is. At that state, nobody, let's say, would miss another that was inclined in that same way. Now think about this. That means the personality recognizes and is used by the higher state. Literally, the higher state is in the personality, because that's an aspect of the physical, the emotional, the mental. It's just bringing it all together in some form of cohesion, or relative cohesion, I should say. Makes you what you think you are. But there's an impact on the higher state within the personality as well as in this head. This is difficult because to understand, basically because we don't think of head stuff up here as being a part of our personality, unless it's our thoughts, are this, are that, are that. And in fact, even if we have an idea come into our mind that isn't ours, it's just an aberrant idea that comes in our mind, and we express it, we anticipate that it's ours because it's in this noggin of ours. A personality that can look at that and say, I don't think like that. Matter of fact, that's an emotion. That's not my kind of emoting. That's not the way I physically normally do things. Where is that coming from? Some of you have acted strangely from time to time, according to you. And it may have been according to a reality or an emotion of an individual has impacted upon you. You had no clue about it, and you acted out like they might act out. In fact, if they know that you're acting like them and you're around them, they may feel quite proud that they made you do that. That's a personality style orientation. And there will be more of this going on as we grow, because we are invested in ourselves in a way that relates quite physically to being valued by others. Emotionally, same way. Intellectually, same way. But it is the nature of how we do things on this planet. So what you're learning is the beginnings of beginning to know the difference between you and that which is in you, without being negative or positive, just being able to perceive it. Because this happens 365 days a year, 24 hours every day. We are impacted by others, but we don't know that. So therefore, you can easily throw that idea out by the ramblings of just some other person, or forget it immediately. It is a disturbing thing to consider that that is a possibility. No doubt about it. But if you did notice it, I would say, good. You've begun to notice what you haven't been able to notice before. Your awareness is broadening. Now your personality has to learn how to gentle down when it sees these things. And begin, if it can, allow that awareness to occur. And there is a difference. You may not be able to allow that awareness to occur just yet, because it would be too disturbing. Now, the other extreme is every time you turn around and you do something, somebody else is affecting you. You got to be able to calm that one down too. Finding a balance internally means that you have to learn how to be okay with you, no matter what. That's uncomfortable. Because sometimes you're the perpetrator. If you're angry inside, you're the one that is transmitting that anger to others. And you ultimately find out that you don't want to do that. You don't want to harm another and have them harm others. So, normally I don't talk about this because it's weird and a little bit crazy making, to be honest. But the issue is a species growing, a crown center beginning to come on to the point at a brow, or a throat center, or a heart center, or other centers coming on to the point where they move together to the degree that where they allow each other to see each other and to note other flows that come in attached to how another person thinks, for example, how another person reacts, emotes, how another person stiffens up and stabilizes how they think they need to be. This is not an easy thing to be truly aware on a mind level. That's why it is important to recognize that your personality is not something to be obliterated. It's something to be recognized and softened down and seen, and it will become the seer. It's an aspect of relating to higher states. This is so different than often what we we misunderstand from others who have begun to engage somehow. It appears as if sometimes, then when the mind is quiet, that you no longer have a personality. But that is not true. You still have the same one you had before, but it's adapting and learning to do things slightly differently. On top of this, compounded, is that every time you grow, your personality is adjusting and doesn't like it. So it intensifies. And then you get used to it, and then the intensification is softened because now you're used to that level of growing. Just a little bit. Now you're ready for the next level of growing. The dilemma with higher mind is that it has a flavor of its own, and that flavor is very quiet. But you're more susceptible to astral planes, honestly, impact on the body by others, and also impact in the mind. You must be okay with not agreeing with you, plus sometimes with almost anything that comes into your mind. But looking at it, you have time to look at it. That looking helps you to be training yourself to understand beyond the capability that you've had before. This is a little bit uncomfortable, but it is a learning phase in our species, in my understanding. And my hope, I guess, is that it will go through many learning phases as it grows. Same is true of all of us individuals. So to allow yourself to be in a learning phase as you grow is not how we're trained. We're trained to go through a learning phase, whatever it is, school or whatever it is, and then be very proud of how we've done things and think that we know more than somebody else or others because we went through those phases. And perhaps we do. But remember, in our learning phases, about every 10 to 20 years, there are changes in society and there are changes in what is taught. It might be important to think about. So whatever we learn intellectually, there will be shifts and changes. Can you allow them to occur? Whatever you experience inside you, there will be shifts in that because you're preparing to understand beyond what you understand currently. That is a feature of, you could call it lifelong learning. A feature of opening the mind. A feature of allowing yourself to be a part of a relationship that broadens because humanity has potential to do so. Increments by increments, little by little, very interesting thing in some of the stories that I've talked about during um, some of the teaching that I've expressed about individuals that I've met who are extremely able. One of the features is they don't tell anybody. Another feature is they can perceive, because you are transmitting to them all the time, and everyone is, whether you know it or not, what you believe you need to transmit so that you can be valued by others. But you don't necessarily do it consciously, it's an automatic. With these folk, they're not there trying to transmit anything to you. You are the transmitter. They would know you where you are, and they don't care about your personality. And I'm so sorry, but they don't much care. They're more interested in how you are engaging and how much you can handle in relationship to that flow operating through these centers or valves, whatever you want to call them, and how you're dealing with it, and where perhaps it might help you just to stretch a wee bit so that you can broaden out the way you think, soften down your activity, or engage and be more susceptible to perceiving that higher state more consciously. It's a big leap. But the purpose in relationship to this is to link up with higher states in a manner that would be beneficial to others on this same planet. You have to think about that one. So, yes, you go and you do some shopping tomorrow afternoon. And you're engaged totally and completely with the bananas and the carrots and the cabbage and the lettuce and the tomatoes or whatever that you need for the weekend. Whatever you're purchasing. And the place is packed. I'm not talking about COVID here, I'm talking about transmission. That place is packed and you're grumbly because you're waiting in line and you wish that lady would hurry up or that guy would just get his card out of his blooming wallet and just tap it or something. There you are. Not your favorite, but you are justified in doing whatever you need to do. And then, even in those conditions, energy can operate through you for the purpose of being helpful to others. Yes, you have your own operational skills reflective of your life and how you function, but at the same time, others have some of those skills too. Yours are just yours. But at the same time, if you are open just a little bit more, those higher states can operate through you for the purpose of being helpful to others. One day you will notice that that is not you doing it. If that doesn't humble you or scare that out of you, then you'll say, interesting, what happened today? Good. Hopefully, I can do it tomorrow. Hopefully, I can grow a little. Of course, you can walk down the street and meet 3 people who you happen to know and say, you never believe what happened. I really helped those people today. Wow, it was wonderful. I am able to function in these higher states. You didn't do anything. Except now, you're stimulating your own personality to be greater and more of a cement wall against perception. Yeah, it doesn't mean you're not going to be able to perceive. It just means you're used to doing that. If you could only see it, maybe the next time you were there and then you saw those 3 people, you wouldn't be quite as expressive. For the purpose of being blunt about how important you are because the higher states operated through you. That's the kind of thing that personalities do when they're trained the way we are on these planes. So, did you do something bad? No, you didn't. Did you do something you? Yeah, you did. And you didn't notice. One day you'll notice. Noticing is the first step. Soften it down a little bit and start smiling. A second step, maybe. And then just noticing when it's happening to the best of your ability. Recognizing that sometimes you'll miss it. Sometimes you won't notice anything. And you'll have a grumble about it. That will be normal. See the normal and be okay with you. Know you. So that if there's something else in you that's different than you, you'll see it. Because you're getting to know you as you are instead of what you want people to see you as. And then take it slow. Be respectful of you and be kind to you. Beating yourself up doesn't help. You just can't obliterate anything. But you can recognize and not necessarily ache for stimulation. Yes, it might change your personality style a wee little bit, but every now and then you'll be right there. Don't worry. People will recognize you. But they will also be impressed by you being different, more perhaps moderate, perhaps a little bit more expressive when you can be, perhaps knowing when to pull back, perhaps realizing that your intentions are for you to be elevated, not the higher state to be operational through you. Will the higher state operate through you if you are like that? Yeah. But the relationship that you have with you will be stimulated as well. Now, that's a dilemma because it brings up something that is uncomfortable. When you're disappointed in you, you will see it twice as well. When you're uncomfortable, you'll see it twice as much, or a version of that. Because you are now increasing your awareness. You see you and you try to be the best you can. Perfection is not the goal. Awareness and understanding and compassion and caring, loving is the goal, is a goal that's viable. A little bit more than what you can do now, and with awareness of it. It is fascinating how little our relationship with our own self-interest is of interest to those in higher states. But I don't believe it's seen as negative. I think it's seen as if we are just very young and don't know the difference and are afraid to know the difference. That does not mean we're judged for it. It means we're learning. We're not devalued for it. We're uncovering a relationship with higher states. And the patience from that level is tremendous. Patience that we have, no offense to anybody or myself, is slightly less than tremendous. Those things are very important from my perspective. Now, I've also tried to, in this, I've tried to answer part of Donna Voldness from the Columbus area, Granville area. That's a question, last question about a kind of goal in relationship to our inner growth. I think what we'll do now, I know it's a slight bit early, but I haven't got a question that will only take a very, very short period of time. So I think what we'll do is for the evening, we'll meditate. And I wish you all really tremendous levels of growing. And I wish for all of us that we can handle these next steps of conscious awareness, but not only conscious awareness, of being able to consciously handle increased flow. Good night, everybody. And we're going to meditate now. And now we'll just begin to do the balancing and grounding on our own. And good night, everybody.